Hi guys, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Susie.
Welcome to the Daily Deck podcast, where we're going to be talking about everything from life, love, relationships, family, food, and health and wellness. We talk about everything on the Daily Deck podcast here today, and we are so excited to be starting this with our first podcast of the series called Maintaining Joy and Extended Seasons of Busyness. And today I have with me here Joe Hart Kudalkar, who's also my big sister, and we have Shravanti Amlu from India. So as to just start us off, do you guys just want to quickly introduce yourselves? What do you do? Like, where are you from? Tell us a little bit, like, quickly about your backstory and things. Joe, let's go with you.
Okay, sure. So, as Susie mentioned, I'm her big sister. I live in Pune right now, Pune, India, but I grew up in Dubai. That's where I was born. I was raised in Dubai, and basically, I'm a mom. I have a 1.5-year-old who is full of beans, full of life. I have a husband and a home, and and for work, I mean, I do a few things. My main job is handling social media, content writing, and anything digital marketing related. But I also am an English coach, so I've recently taken that on up as well. So I do some IELTS training. I help people in corporate, who are really struggling with their English, struggling with presentations, and all of that. So basically, my passion is English and communication. um, yeah, so that's a little bit about me. My hobbies include, well, right now playing with my kid, if that's considered a hobby, but I enjoy listening to music. I love to be able to just binge watch something. Um, but yeah, that's me.
Okay, Shrav.
Okay, myself, I'm from India. And yes, basically, I'm a market research analyst, and I have a work experience of 9 years now. So I do market analysis for the food and beverage industry. So yeah, my job involves more of analysis, a lot of analytics job, and how to process the data and analyze some market dynamics of the current situations and the historical situations and do a lot of predictions for the future and how can companies strategize to market their products and how can they compete with their the fellow uh, companies, their own competitors, and what strategies they can use to be stable in the market. So that's what the background job. That's what I do. I do a lot of calculations and give it to them. So that's what is my job is all about. A lot of thinking job, more of a thinking job. Uh, yeah, and also a lot of Excel to put that into the Excel. So you can imagine that could be a lot of sitting and watching and calculating sort of job. Yeah, other than that, I love traveling and I love making friends. I love hanging out with friends and yes, partying, of course. So yeah, that's me. A little
Okay.
bit of me.
Great. That sounds like actually quite a busy lifestyle, and sometimes maybe a little bit mentally, like a lot sometimes, because you have a very technical job and it requires a lot of thinking and analytics and stuff like that, which can sometimes I can imagine be a little bit draining at times. But then you also seem to have a good balance between your work life and your home life and your entertainment as well. I think that recently, I've been reading that since the pandemic, busyness has become a lot more. Since the pandemic, because people are, working remotely, so there's no sense of separation between work life and home life. It's all kind of together, so people aren't really getting a sense of differentiation between work and home life. And I think, Joe, being a stay-at-home mother and freelancer and working from home, you can also probably relate with that as well. They say that 1 in 3 women would like to have more of a balance in their life and would like to cut down more, on certain things so that they can have a little bit more of time to themselves and time for their families. And they say that like 78% of men are experiencing burnout. So this is a problem that is quite prevalent in our society today, about busyness being a real issue. But of course, there are some people who like to pretend that they are busy, and they like to say like, oh, I'm busy. Like, and then sometimes it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Like, you ask someone, how are you? Like, oh, I'm busy. Like, are you really? Like, some of us unknowingly just say that without even really thinking about it, because we feel like, well, if we're not saying that we're busy, we're not appearing busy, we're not doing much sometimes. So I think it's important, like, for a start, for us to define what is busyness. So Joe, if you wanted to just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's actually quite an interesting observation. I think I myself probably remember doing exactly that when I was younger. When, like, if I want to blow off a boy, or like, and he's like, hey, you didn't call me back, you didn't message me, and I'm like, oh, I've been so busy. Not really. I just don't really want to talk to you. Also, sometimes it's so easy to get used to being busy that we can make ourselves unnecessarily busy because we don't know what to do with our time, which can happen. But like, I just want to start by just defining like a few things that I've coined these terms, so please excuse me if they're not. I know I'm a communications person, but this is what the categories that I can come up with. And of course, we've got extended seasons of busyness, and we've got sporadic busyness, which probably is like a week or 2 weeks, or you've got a project deadline or something. But for the purpose of this podcast, like, we're going to focus on extended busyness. And so under that, like, I've got like 5 things that I want to really talk about. And the first one is seasonal busyness. So seasonal busyness could be, there's a limited defined amount of time to that busyness. It could be, like I said, it could be an event that's, happening at work. So you've got this massive event, which is, 3 months, 6 months down the line. So it's not sporadic because it is long, it's 3 months or 6 months. Or it could be like your university time, for example, which is 3 years, 4 years essentially. But there is a definition to that season of busyness essentially. So kind of like, okay, there is this light at the end of the tunnel. It is going to end. And so it's a different kind of busyness. So for me, for example, on top of my being a mom and my job, I'm also doing my MBA. And so obviously that gets crazy for me. But for me, like, I know, okay, come next year, this is not going to be there. And so, like, I can just, grit my teeth and push myself, and it's going to be over. So that's what seasonal busyness is according to me. And the second one is really long-term busyness. Now, long-term busyness can get really tough because this is something where there's no essentially end in sight for it. It is like, being a mother, for example, you're going to have the kid and probably another kid a few years down the line. So that's probably what, 20, 30, 20, 25, 30 plus years where you've got this home and this family that you've got to literally care for, nurture, and look after, until they're obviously grown and they've moved out of the house. And that to me is, really long term. And though there is an end to it, but it's years down the line. You probably can't even see it. You wake up in the morning and you don't see that. But it is just, get up, breakfast, pack the food, get the husband out of the house, get the kids out of the house. It's crazy, and that's gonna be your life for the foreseeable future. And so that is long-term busyness. The third one I want to talk about, and which I am personally guilty of at some point of in my life and probably still now, is escapism busyness. And this escapism busyness is, well, if, for example, you fill your life with things, so you fill your life, I'm volunteering here and I'm going to take this project on and I'm going to freelance there and I'm going to go out here, and you literally fill your schedule with things to avoid feeling maybe lonely, to avoid being bored, or essentially to avoid dealing with some of the deeper issues that you've been facing, feelings of depression, loneliness, sadness, or any of those things. So it becomes an escape mechanism. And it feels good for a while because, you've got all these things in your life and it feels like, maybe your life is quite full and entertaining. But really, it's a mechanism to avoid processing what you're going through. The fourth thing is disorganized busyness. And disorganized busyness basically comes from being busy because you're unable to manage your time or prioritize your life. So you're always on the go. You barely sit down. It's not like you sit down and you're chit-chatting or you're binge watching. No, you don't do any of that because you are on the go 24/7. But the reason for that is essentially the inability to manage time, meet deadlines, and essentially prioritize, maybe even say no to things. So you've got like a full schedule, you can't catch a break, but there's a deeper issue there. And the last thing is enforced busyness. So enforced busyness is, for example, if you're at work and it's being put on you. You've not volunteered for it. So you're being given more work than you had originally agreed to, but you have to do it. There's no option for it. And so these are my 5 sort of definitions of busyness, which can be sporadic, but more often than not, they are more long-term and extended.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful to define what exactly the different types are and think, how do we fit into those categories and what kind of patterns do we fall into? So let's just go to the next question. Have you ever experienced any negative effects on yourself as a result of highly intense, stressful seasons? Shrav, let's start with you.
Yes, definitely. I did experience stressful situations. Like I said, although I like busyness, I think because of the lack of integrity that I experienced within my team members or my company, I think it affected me. It affected me in terms of productivity, first of all. Earlier, the kind of work I used to handle within a particular period of time used to take longer hours. Like a 5 hours job used to take some 5 days. So the productivity is the main thing which I got affected with, and there is a sort of guilt factor because of the kind of position I was in. I was in mostly I was in the recruitment and that kind of a situation where I had to handle a lot of team members, and a lot of attrition was taking place within the team. And I had to really I cannot do a fair justice there because I was given orders to just keep the team members or don't keep the team members. And although they are performing more than, performing well, more than average, I had to still put a full stop and give them very highly competitive tasks so that I can, really assess whether they can be there or not there within the team. So I had to really do it with my hands that this kind of attrition jobs. I think that was mentally draining for me if I had to personally speak about it. I mean, saying no to them, or even if they are requesting, even when they are requesting that they'll, I mean, they wanted to do better, I could not take those kind of um, uh, statements at all. So I think that's where I got affected a little bit.
Okay, so you've said that you felt sometimes drained, you felt guilty, and you
Yes,
found it
yes,
difficult to say no, which is, I think, something that we all
yes,
struggle with sometimes.
yeah,
What
yeah.
about you, Joe? Have you ever experienced any negative effects on your health because of it?
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I like busyness. I like to be busy. I don't like to be sitting, idle essentially. But like, for example, last year was a different form of busyness, a busyness that I hadn't experienced. So though like I had a bunch of things on my plate, like I said, I'm working, I've got a child, I've got my MBA and stuff. But I also had family staying with me for an extended period of time. And what I realized is that last year, I really didn't get a lot of time for myself. And so that I think that's one of the things that happens with becoming a new mom as well, for the first time, is that so much of your life and so much of your time and thoughts and everything revolves around your family, where you put yourself on the back burner essentially, and you become your own least priority. And so what was happening wasn't bad, but the thing is that because I wasn't making time for myself, because I wasn't prioritizing myself, or even being bold enough to say like, hey, I need this, and kind of asking my family to kind of support me in what I needed as well, is when I started to feel the burnout. Whereas if I had done that, maybe I wouldn't have found it so overwhelming. So for example, just time alone with my husband, for example, because we had all this family, we didn't get a lot of time for ourselves. So time alone with my husband, or time to just go out and take a walk or go for a movie and those kinds of things, I never did that. And so because of that, I think I found myself feeling really overwhelmed. I found myself feeling a little bit, I mean, to be honest, feeling a bit depressed. Last year, we had a bunch of traumatic events as well, lead in all of that. And I think I honestly just needed time to process things, which I didn't do.
So I think it's really important what you said about how you fail to prioritize yourself sometimes because you were giving a lot of yourself to your family. And I think that that's something that maybe a lot of young mothers do. They give themselves up for their close family or their extended family. So just quickly, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think are some of the do's and don'ts of dealing with intense, busy seasons?
Yeah, so maybe I can go first with that one. I think I want to start with do's rather than don'ts. But I think, like I said, it's important. I think self-awareness is really important in dealing with busyness, stressful situations, essentially. So it's really important for you to be very alert to yourself, essentially, and know when you are overdoing it, when you are just too exhausted, or feeling a bit overwhelmed, feeling upset. It's very, very important for you to stay alert to your own self, and also know your triggers. There are certain things that really do trigger you. For example, for me, I can't handle lateness, essentially. So if I'm working with a team, and the team's got a deadline, and I'm dependent on XYZ to meet their deadline, to meet my deadline, and they don't meet their deadlines, and then I'm under pressure because now they're late, but I want to be on time. So knowing your triggers, basically, in order to kind of handle yourself in a better situation. Um, Also, I think, like I said, prioritizing yourself, not being afraid to stand up for yourself and say, hey, this is what I need. I need time to exercise, or I need, time off my screen, or whatever it is that you need. I need that 5 minutes in the morning to have like a cup of coffee, or I need to be able to shower in peace, whatever it is, like, just saying, hey, this is what I need, and not being ashamed to feel that or to communicate that. So that is one of the things. Of course, having a support system is really, really important. I cannot stress how important it is to have a support system for you. So to like have somebody that you can vent to, that you can process with, someone that will tell you, hey, you are overdoing it, this is not right, this is affecting you. Someone who will, essentially take you out, say like, hey, let's go get an ice cream, or let's go get a coffee. Having that support system, those friends that you've built, or family, whoever it is, and getting out, stepping away from the situation, stepping away from the, like we said in the pandemic time, stepping away from the house, because sometimes the house has become this all-encompassing, place of busyness. And yeah, just, I mean, if you are a Christian, or some, dig into your, like, lean in on God, because really he is the only one who can sustain you. If you are running like a hamster, just trying to spin the wheel, and you can't, like, there's a high chance that, you know that you have not been able to connect with God, and because he's the only one who can sustain you through those intense seasons of busyness. And so those are my 4 or 5 do's. My don'ts would be, um, don't be ashamed, you know, don't be ashamed to voice your opinions, voice your needs, um, and don't overdo it, because nobody benefits from you overdoing it. Whether it's work, whether it's your family, or whatever it is, if you crash, everything crashes. Um, so don't overdo it just because you're trying to prove yourself, or trying to, I don't know, compete. And the last thing I would say is, don't compare, like with social media, especially me. I work in social media, so I'm on social media all the time. And it's so difficult, like I see these Instagram moms who are like, hey, we're doing arts and crafts today. Oh, whoop, whoop. And, we're doing this and we're doing that. And I'm like, man, when do I get to be that Instagram? It's okay. It's okay if you're not an Instagram mom. It's not okay if it's okay for you to just be yourself. You're not always going to be the one that bakes the best cookies, or, makes like the fancy cakes for your kid's birthday. But you are you, and you are exactly who your boss needs, exactly who your family needs. And like, God has placed you there for you, not for someone else. And so don't compare yourself with XYZ, because that can really become really difficult for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's really important sometimes that we don't compare ourselves to others and how they handle situations and how their family life appears to be, and stuff like that. Because sometimes when I'm trying to tackle like a task or a workload, I just tend to feel like, why can't I just get it done faster? And I think one of the things I would say as like something we should avoid doing when it comes to busyness is that we kind of get into this thing of like, oh, if I just do it faster, then everything will be much better. And if I just work faster, then I can accomplish 10 things of my task. Whereas if you would give like 2 hours of your focused attention to a task, you might be able to finish it more effectively and do a much better job. And so we just like, oh no, I just need to be better at it. I just need to be fast. I need to manage my time more. Or maybe you just need to take a step back and say like, hey, I think I am doing too much. What can I let go of? What can I do? And like recognize your own limitations. Like maybe you are slower in some tasks because it's an area that you need to improve upon. And rather than criticize yourself for feeling like, I cannot accomplish this fast enough, I just need to be faster. I just don't think that that's a healthy way of talking to yourself. So, find a way to either ask for support in that area or focus on a task that you can do and then come back to that later, and make sure that you do it at a time that you're fresh, and that you have a list and you're checking things off, because that can also make you feel better about your productivity as well. And I would also say, like, from my personal advice is just to know, like Joe said, like knowing yourself and knowing what you can and you can't handle. Like for me, I have no issues with having like a 10 to 12 hour busy work day, but then there needs to be a time where I come home and I can exercise, I can go for a run, or I can binge watch a Netflix show or something, because I need that time at the end of the day or some time during the day to unwind, because otherwise it becomes a bit too much and I just feel like, well, eventually I'm going to start running on empty. So Shrav, if you just want to quickly share what would be your personal do's and don'ts of dealing with busy seasons, just like very quickly, just to summarize.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, I'm very much in alignment. Whatever, I think you have covered a lot of it. Uh, Let me divide my factors like this: the internal and external factors. So the internal factors here is we have to question ourselves first. Why am I even so stressful at work? What is it that is stressing? Why is it not easy for me? So why am I even stressing at this work? I think this is the first and the basic question that anybody has to question themselves. And is it because of the job insecurity that I'm not going to get any job anymore, or the management goals are not in alignment with my career or the life goals? So these kind of questions, I think we have to set that up and we have to try to answer them. Are we really happy, first of all, with the kind of work we are doing? Is it because is that the reason that why I'm stressing out? So once we answer these kind of questions, it really brings a sort of confidence, first of all, within us. So if you question yourself that no, I'm not insecure, I have a good work experience, I am an expertise in so and so field. If so and so company wants me to leave, I can get a job very easily in another company where I'm competitively standing in the industry. So we have to assess all these parameters and write down, and you should know that where you're standing in the industry, not just get oppressed with the pressure. No matter whatever the pressure is, you should know yourself where you're standing. So this sort of emotional quotient is very much needed for us to be very stable. So this brings the stability, and then comes the external factors, what you need to do about it, where you need to give the white space. And based on these internal answers you get for these internal questions of ours, we can design our external factors. Like, what do I want to do? First of all, start, as Joe said, start with by talking. So most people ignore this. Just communicate. If you can't talk, just draft an email. You need not be very articulative, because expression is more important and significant here. Not how how we are drafting an email or something, and let that person know that why you're stressing out, and you're stressing out in so and so areas. So letting the team know or your manager know that it's causing sort of stressful busyness in you is very important. And once you deal with it and you decided that you're going to be busy because you have accepted that now, then you come up with some factors like, just take a break. I do a vigorous weekend. My weekends are very, I make sure that they are very solid and they're totally away from the kind of work I do during the weekdays. Like, I'm really silent and a little bit tough at the workplace, but I'm totally different. The other side, I love to spend the time with the kids. I watch a lot of special and unique movies. I love traveling. And yes, I do all such stuff. Then it's individualistic. People can design their own, external factors to fill that, to involve in that white space without burdening ourselves.
Can I just add to something that Shravanti said? I think, she said that it is important to talk, whoever it is, to your boss, to your colleagues, to whoever it is. I think, like one thing that I want to just say is that they may not always respond the way that you expect them to or that you want them to, especially like if we talk about enforced busyness and you're saying to your boss, hey, this is too much, I can't. And he might just be like, well, too bad, deal with it, so they may not respond the way that you want them to.
Yeah.
But it's not about their response.
Yes.
It's about the fact that you are unashamedly, fearlessly communicating that, and it's okay to keep hitting that nail. Like, just be like,
Yeah.
you know what, I can't, this is too much, this is too much. They may threaten you, say, okay, we'll replace you. Okay,
Yes.
replace me.
Okay.
That's fine. That's
Yes.
absolutely fine, because it's not, your worth does not come from your boss's approval of
Right.
you.
Hmm.
And your worth doesn't come from, I mean, even as a husband and wife, sometimes, I may say things and he may not get it, but eventually, but I'll keep telling him like, hey, I need this, that. And it's vice versa as well. He may say something I might not get, but that's okay. It's not about their response. It's about how you communicate, whether you communicate or not. And also, the second thing I want to say is that, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Yes, it's okay. Sometimes people are finicky about talking about, oh, my mental health. Like, what, do you want to go to a psych ward? No, it's not like that. Some people, they are like, oh, she needs a psychologist, she needs a therapist, and then it's like almost like a taboo. But if we can talk about our physical health and about fitness and all of that, we can very well talk about our mental wellness, because our mental health affects our physical health more than anything else. You can work out and you can eat the right food and you can do everything possible.
Yes.
But if you are not able to take control of these stress factors and these triggers, it's all in the toilet, really.
Yes. Yes.
So don't, I mean, yeah, that's my thing, is don't worry about talking about your mental health.
Yeah, I think communicating is really important, and also just like Joe said, like setting your boundaries. And I think there's a lot that can be said about people who know what their capabilities are and what their capacity is, and really sticking to their boundaries and being firm in that. And I think that people actually respect that more. Like people even say, like, practice strategic incompetence. Like, if someone gives you a task and you don't have the capacity for it, just don't give your 100%. And that might seem like bad advice, but it's like, the thing is, sometimes in work culture and in life, people tend to think about, okay, what can I get? What can I get out of this person? What can I get out of this situation? And so you give them an inch, they take a mile. But I think it's really important to practice the boundaries of saying, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 today, and anything apart from that can wait, or I can do it within my work hours. And literally talking like, my time and my work-life balance is important. Like, I work with people who can actually have the power to say to me, like, I'm sorry, this is not this is not in my work hours. I can do it later. And I have said that to people as well. Like, if you don't prioritize setting me things within my work hours, even when I'm working with people internationally, like, I'm not going to do it. And that is me setting my boundaries and saying no. And because I'm not a machine, and you can't just keep throwing things on me and expecting me to keep doing things and being your yes girl. Like, I have a life, and my family life and my personal life and my mental health is really important. And I know that I can often get sucked into that trap of just letting myself be squashed by busyness and be like, oh, I need this job, so I have to say yes to everything, and I don't want to get fired, and I need to do this, and I want to do that, and I need to support my family. Like you said, your life isn't going to stop if you lose your job. Like, everything isn't going to go away So I think it is really important to set those boundaries. And I think like just moving on to the dangers of extended seasons of busyness, I think we've discussed, and Joe, you were sharing about how last year you felt like you weren't prioritizing yourself. And I think like even in my case, I'm into the events industry, which can be quite busy in the seasonal busyness kind of way. But man, like that is a killer because it can be like long hours, no sleep, highly stressful situations. There's very little margin for error. You have to be on the go. And it was so difficult for me. Like my last event that I was doing was so difficult. It came to a point where my productivity was really shutting down. So although we think we're being really effective by doing 20 things on our to-do list, at the end of the day, we're like, oh yeah, I've been giving so much of myself to the company and to the job and to the event. And now a week before the event, I find myself shutting down. Like it doesn't help the company, it doesn't help me. So I think paying attention to the amount that you're putting in, the work that you're putting in, recognizing that the need to balance your life isn't just desire or seeking leisure. It is an actual need, and not just neglecting your mental health by saying, "Oh no, I need to work." So I think the dangers are, we can shut down, we can experience burnout. I had some anxiety attacks as well. It can be really physical. It can take a physical toll on your body. I used to get like a lot of stomach problems due to the stress. I had like throwing up. So there are a lot of dangers to extended seasons of busyness, and it can be really difficult. And I was talking with one of my friends who's been working like 7 days a week for 4 months nonstop, and he was like, you know what? I think I'm just depressed because I don't have a life outside of work. And it's like, and that is, I think, the inspiration behind this entire podcast is to, when you can't get a break, like you're a mom, you are in the corporate world, you have a very demanding job, you're in a leadership position, I'm in the events industry. And like, just to like wrap up the podcast, what would be your advice or encouragement to someone who is going through an extended busyness season? How would you encourage someone who's going through something like this? Let's start with you, Shrav.
As I always say, and I have always told, we should question ourselves why we are even busy, why we are doing this. Start from there. Once you resolve these internal issues, it helps us to connect with the solutions. So, and just communicate. First, resolve your issues, then communicate with about those issues to the people. Talk to the people, talk to your friends, say or share with the things. That's what I always love about our church meetings. We tend to share, we release our burdens, we take a lot of advices, and I don't want to live in the silos at all. If I keep indulging in my own world, I think I become a sort of living in my own silos. I don't understand what other people's story are. Just talk to the people and try to know people stories, try to hear their stories so that you will understand where you are standing. Otherwise you think that your world is the only world and this is a depressing world, and why you even are living here. So it's a sort of purposeless way of doing things. That's where we end up doing it if we don't communicate properly or share the things and develop good relationships and friendships. So don't be like a frog in the well and think that your world is the only world. Just look outside, keep a track of what's going on in the world. So I think that's the advice I can give.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, so I think for me, my encouragement to people who are really, in these seasons of really intense busyness is know that you're not alone, in whatever you're suffering. Though your suffering or your struggles may be unique to you, and we don't want to take away from that, but also know that, you're not alone. And if you do want to talk about it, there's, like I said, that it's completely fine to talk about it. It is hard, like for you, for example, Susie, you're still young in your early 20s, for you, you're just starting to navigate the corporate world, essentially. It's still relatively fresh for you. And so that transition from school life and university life into the corporate world, it's hard, and it's okay to just to voice it out, to talk and be like, hey, this is crap sometimes, like, because essentially when you're a fresher in the workplace, you're the fresh piece of meat, and everybody wants to get as much juice out of you as possible. And it's hard for people like me who are new mom, and basically any transition time is pretty tough, where you've got something new going on, and you're starting to have to learn from scratch how to do it. So yeah, just know that you're not alone, I think. And as I said, it's so important for you to have your support systems, and those support systems really need to be built when you're not in a crisis. They need to be built when you're good, in a good state of mind, because nobody's going to come alongside of you when the crisis hits, because then you're new to them. But when you're in the crisis, what you really need is someone that actually kind of maybe knows you as well as you know yourself, or better. Like, I remember, Susie, you were here when last year, when all these things were happening with our family, and I think without me even saying anything, you kind of just took Thea, my daughter's Thea, took Thea and just entertained her, and I went into my room and I just watched one episode of something, and it was like, wow, I have all this energy that I need just from that, half an hour of space. So, like, at that point, I didn't even have to communicate, because I had built that relationship. And you're my sister, but having those relationships outside of, crisis times. So my encouragement to you was just really build authentic, genuine relationships before or even in these times of crisis. And lastly, I think, if you are struggling and you really don't have anyone in your life that you can talk to, because that does happen, please find someone. Don't bottle it in, because that'll harm you. So if you do need to pay for therapy, do that. I mean, we are there as the Daily Deck team, to support you in any way. We're not therapists, but we're people who have gone through more struggle than we can ever even speak about. So we're there, and we're happy to just be a sounding board for you, or be a listening ear for you. But like I said, if you can't find anyone to talk to speak with, you want to talk, so if you want to even talk anonymously, just go ahead and do that, because you're important, you're valuable, you matter, and don't ever forget that. Your worth is not something that needs to be squashed. It's not something that needs to be last priority. You are more valuable than you think. So that's my encouragement to you.
I think on that note, we're going to end the podcast. I think it's been incredibly insightful for me, especially navigating extended seasons of busyness with grace, recognizing that busyness is a blessing, because it means that we are also, we are working, we are, not just sitting around, that we are embracing life to the fullest. I think it can be a blessing. And also just recognizing some of the triggers, the stress factors, recognizing when busyness can be unhealthy, or when it can be a little bit overdoing it. And over the next couple of months, we hope to dive deeper into some of the different topics, or the different kind of sectors within busyness, such as burnout, or coping mechanisms, or escapism, because there is so much that comes under this umbrella of mental health. And I think it's a really important topic. It needs to be talked about, and especially in a culture where we place work on sometimes like a pedestal, and some of us can unintentionally become more, in tune with work and like workaholics and stuff like that. So how do we draw the line and have a healthy and well-balanced lifestyle, and even keep our sense of contentment in busy seasons? I mean, I was watching this video the other day, and it talks about being content in every season that we are. Like for some of us, we will be in an extremely dry season. We'll be like, oh, I just need some more work, like things are very slow right now. And then when we're in a really busy season, we'll be like, no, I think I just really need things to be a little quieter and a bit more mellow so that I can hear myself think again. So I think there's sort of a thing, and I know I'm also very prone to doing this as well, that lack of contentment. But we need to find ways to be content in whatever season we are, whether it's busy, non-busy, whether it's difficult, or whatever it is. There is a lesson to be learned. There's a blessing to be had in every single season that we are in. We need to figure out how to learn that contentment within every season that we are in. Thank you so much, Shrav and Joe, for joining us today on the Daily Deck podcast, our first podcast of the season. And I think we've really started off with a bang here with some amazing content. So thank you so much.